Welcome to Chronic Combat Conversations, a live look at our past bets, picks, and predictions for 2021, and also the Chronic Combat Awards with your hosts, TB Scouting MMA and
The Guru back again. And wow, did we miss you in this new year, man? We are really happy to be back. We hope you all had a wonderful, happy holiday with your families and enjoyed celebrating the new year. We are anxiously anticipating the start of the 2022 season of MMA kicking off with Giga Chikadze and Calvin Kader. But before we get into that breakdown and before we dive into this 2022 season, I want to look back at the 2021 season, which was just an incredible year. Obviously, our inaugural year. When we wanted to start this podcast a year ago, I was like, oh, let's start our first show with an award show, because it was right around this break that we decided to start the pod. And TB was like, nah, man, nobody cares about our awards because who are we? We don't even have a pod. And I was like, all right. So we focused more on what our actual podcast would be instead of doing an award show. And now to make it a year later, 43 cards later, um, a handful of incredible guests that I want to shout out all of them individually. No, in no particular order, by the way, but just thanks so much to them, which I will say in a second. But just to come full circle and actually have our award show right now is truly a special moment. So thank you all for listening and tuning in. And I want to say a quick thank you to our guests, and then I'm gonna get down to this award show here. Thank you to Clint, Diehard MMA, Uncle Wheezy with the Balls Deep Breakdown, Lucrative MMA, Alex Bahunin from Cageside Press, Dan Levy with Best Fight Picks, our buddy Schwan Humes, our good friend Sun Tzu, our Jersey boy, Tom Feely over at OMG, it's Feely, and our good friend from around here, UFC Shark. I don't think I missed anybody, but
I think we covered the bases.
yeah. So without further ado, let's actually get to what we came here for, which is the 2021 Chronic Combat Awards.
Chronic Combat Conversations, Triple C.
Yeah,
We
baby.
made it, and I think it's time to celebrate, a good first year, right? And it's going to only get better from here on out. We got our stats going in deep now. We're going to try to start making more, of our own stuff going on as far as producing some stats and maybe a little algorithm in the future here. So, it's very exciting stuff. And, I'm hoping to just keep bringing you guys some picks that we can all hit on, because that's really the best part is, winning together.
Yeah, really honing in our craft and learning from our mistakes. And like TB said, we kind of sprung that up towards the end of the year there. We're like, we've been developing for the last 18 months our own fight stat database that, will compile these stats and, gives us a more contextualized look than UFCstats.com. We want to peel that next layer. And,
Yeah. And shout out, it's a ton of people out there that's already been doing this stuff. That's been the inspiration. And it always feels better when, you kind of create, your own angle. Exactly.
Absolutely.
And, we just want to be part of the party and to have the community welcome us and be so kind. And I mean, listen, we got like 81 subscribers on our channel now. I mean, it's not, the biggest number, but I mean, that's 81 more people listening to us on a regular basis than we had a year ago. So that's, it's something to celebrate, and we keep on making our progress here. And
I'm not good at math, but what's 81 divided by 12? Like, I feel like that's a decent number if it's like per month. What is that, like 6 or something?
And we can only hope that our results, we've been tracking them publicly now, ended up in the green for the year over at Bet MMA Tips. So if you want to follow our official plays that we're putting out, I mean, that's where to go. So, I mean, without further ado, let's get into this year, because, man, it was a whirlwind. Felt like an event every week. And there were, 3 events in a week at times over at Fight Island. So it's just been crazy.
There were 52 weeks in a year, and there were 43 events. And we know that, like you just said, that they started the year, which again feels so long ago. They started that week with with it was 10-day span with 3 events, excuse me.
Yeah.
And that was just an incredible span. So let's start right there.
Yeah, I mean, so just to give you guys an idea of what we're looking for as we go back through these events, we do have 4 kind of, awards we're looking to give out. We have Fighter of the Year, Newcomer / Rookie of the Year, Comeback Fighter of the Year, and Comeback Fight of the Year. So we're gonna go over the best knockouts, best submissions, and stuff, and the best fights overall. But it only feels right to give out awards, to that stuff where it's tough to pick a winner on some of these other things, and I feel like a lot of other shows have done a great job.
Absolutely. And one of the things that comes up right away, honestly, we'll just start with the Max Holloway and Calvin Kader fight, and I want to talk about this with you specifically, is like our discernible difference between like a fight of the year candidate and a performance of the year candidate. So to me, this fight, while it was an incredible fight, that's not a fight of the year candidate because it was a Max Holloway beat the piss out of him. We haven't seen Calvin Kader in 365 days because of the performance that Max Holloway put on him. So to me, that's a performance of the year nominee, not a fight of the year nominee.
Yeah, and for sure. I mean, you look and see Li Jingliang versus Ponzinibbio. I mean, I loved calling that bet. If you guys followed me on Li Jingliang earlier in the year, I mean, that was the first underdog, big play. We got a knockout. That was great. I mean, Carlos Condit, that he rode off into the sunset after his win after Matt Brown, right?
Yeah. No, he did. Yeah. No, wait, what?
What? Didn't he have he had another fight. Oopsies.
Yeah.
Anywho, so then if you get on to like another highlight on this card, I know Guru was getting ahead and kind of scouting out the stuff here. I mean, that head kick from Alessio Di Chirico, that was something that Guru highlighted.
So absolutely, I feel like since that knockout happened literally on the first card, nobody's talking about it. But Buckley, everybody was talking about it at the time. Buckley, the knockout of the year winner, by pretty much everybody's account last year, was put on a poster to open up 2021, and that was really crazy. And shout out to Chirico, man. He had that KO really early, right? No, it was actually middle of the way through the first round.
Yeah. I mean, it really didn't take too long, and it was just super impressive because Buckley was on this run, and he was like a -2 something favorite, and Di Chirico just completely turned the tables, and I don't think anyone expected that to happen. So it was super cool. Unless you were on the Buckley side and lost a bunch of money, but which actually we might have, but it was still a very cool moment in the year. And
because nobody was expecting that to happen, and I
right.
At least because Di Chirico was a decision machine. Like that really was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, next, there really wasn't a ton of other notable things on that card, besides maybe Puna Soriano just absolutely stealing Dusko Todorovic's prospect status, but a pretty underwhelming prelim card. So you move right along to our next card here with Chiesa versus Magny.
This is Wednesday card.
Yeah, and I mean, what was that? Our first dog of the day, big hit, right?
Yeah, it was. And the last time Michael Chiesa did something good for us.
Yeah, but he's still you gotta love the guy. And then what was I see you got another note here. I'll let you take this one for
oh my God. So one of our upsets of the year for sure. You'd have to really think about this being an upset of the year. Warley Alves's spot in that co-main event against Munir Lazzez. Lazzez was like a fairly chalky favorite. It was in Abu Dhabi, if you guys do remember that, on Fight Island. So Munir was like had the home crowd there, so to speak, and he was again like it was supposed to be a tee up because Warley hadn't fought in over a year for Warley, and he laid him the fuck out right in the first round. With body shots. So not really super impressive in terms of the knockout because it was body shots and you just kind of buckled over, but an incredible performance for Warley Alves.
Yeah, and I certainly thought that another impressive performance. Lerone Murphy, a guy that we've been following and backing for a long time. He had a nice win over Silva de Andrade.
It was very good. Yeah.
The other notable fights on that card.
Yeah.
What else were you seeing?
So one of the main things that I saw as well, just quickly, I thought that Umar Nurmagomedov's submission over Morozov was fairly impressive, only because we cashed so well on Morozov as an underdog. I believe in his next fight,
Yeah.
because we know how good of a grappler he is. So these are two prospects that maybe like the casuals, quote unquote, don't necessarily know, but just watching that fight, the submission was incredible. And without a doubt, everybody was talking about it at the time, but I haven't heard anybody talking about it now. Mike Davis versus Mason Jones. That fight was a fight of the year.
Yes.
Maybe it doesn't get enough, again, because it was so early in the year and it was on the prelims.
Yeah.
But I mean, that fight was, I rewatched. I mean, that fight was a banger in all senses of the word. I mean, it was a slugfest, and it was a 29-28, but the rounds were close.
I agree. And the final notable thing for me on that card was the opener, where Manon Fiorot makes her UFC debut with a nice head kick knockout win.
Sorry. One of my main notes for Mike Davis and Mason Jones, was if you have a friend that's never seen MMA before, you just put on that fight. Like, you don't even have to start with like the Jon Jones Gust one. Like, you don't even have to go there. Go to Mike Davis, Mason Jones. I mean, because that fight was a slobber knocker. So moving right along to card 3.
Definitely, we got the downfall of the great McGregor to Dustin Poirier.
Sure.
Yeah, I might have called it a fluke at the time. They might still be calling it a fluke, but
if you're Conor McGregor, you still are.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, a very great introduction to the greatness of Poirier, at least against McGregor this year, huh?
Definitely. I mean, and when you look at this card, this was like very different than the next McGregor card that happened this year. This was like your typical not super stacked McGregor card. I mean, you see some prospects in Arman Sarukian fighting and Movsar Evloev, Marina Rodriguez, but nothing that really jumps off the page. The Michael Chandler fight, that was supposed to be really exciting, and of course it was. Chandler gets that first round knockout, but Hooker looked terrible. So he kind of like, because of Hooker's real lack of performance, it's hard to give Michael Chandler any sort of major kudos. I mean, he did fantastic. Just, I mean, in terms of fight of the year nominations, in terms of knockout nominations, it was an incredible knockout, but and an incredible debut, right? If we were giving out like a debut of the year award, I mean, that was like one of your most emphatic debuts you could make. And then and Juliana Pena's on there. She started her title run.
Yeah, Marina Rodriguez knocked the fuck out of Amanda Hibosh, and that was the very beginning of Herb Dean's kind of downfall to me. Like,
shout out Herb Dean, knocked out twice.
Yeah, Herb Dean kind of getting sketchy out there these days, but
for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of takes us on to our next card here. We had Overeem versus Volkov, and we had Overeem was on his one last run, and man, that really didn't end well against Alexander Volkov, huh?
It did not. And we haven't seen Overeem since, like, I know JDS is doing the triad. Like, I don't know exactly what Overeem is doing, right? Has he signed a contract anywhere?
Yeah, I don't know, but all I know is that we cashed nicely on Volkov.
Yeah, we did. What was the line on that?
I don't remember exactly, but I think it was slightly plus money if I remember correctly, but don't quote me on that. Corey Sanhagen versus Edgar. I mean, that flying knee knockout cold. I mean, Frankie Edgar, he had never really been knocked out cold until the Ortega thing, but that was just brutal. And
that knockout, just the way in which it happens, the pressure by Frankie, and the way he just kind of jumps up and switches his knee and just collides perfectly with his jaw, and you just see him sleep. It was just so vicious and so out of nowhere. It really probably is the knockout of the year. It is just, it's just the moment, because it's Frankie. Obviously we'll touch on the other ones, like everybody's touched on the specific signature knockouts of this year. We all know the specific signature.
We'll be getting there.
Yeah, and we're gonna do
And
our
we
best
got to keep moving along here
to
too.
really highlight some of the other better ones as well. But yeah, so let's move right along. The other I thought fight of the year nominee possibly, right? Beneil Dariush, Carlos Diego Ferreira. Right? That
That was
fight
a fun ass
was
fight.
really, really crazy.
You gotta love the scrambles.
The scrambles, the back and forth pressure. I mean, when you watch a fight like that, you realize Beneil Dariush has just been really exciting. He's getting mopped by Islam Makhachev.
Yeah. Our next card, we got Kamaru Usman, Gilbert Burns. I mean, damn. I mean, Usman really showed his knockout power with the jab and beating one of his former teammates and really his training partner. So that was certainly interesting to see. And I remember cashing very nicely on Alexa Grasso versus Macy Barber, going head to head against a bunch of people on Barber. And that felt really good to cash on Grasso. I could tell you that.
It definitely did, especially because you have a crush on her. But this card was honestly, this pay-per-view was probably the worst pay-per-view of the year in retrospect. And it's kind of tough to say that because, you know, there were so many great pay-per-views this year, but this one was kind of more difficult.
Yeah, I mean, well, you had two really crazy submissions in a row. I'll start with the first one, or the second one, I guess. Julian Marquez with his comeback victory over Maki Pitolo. And I mean, he had locked in a bunch of submission attempts that fight, but to finally finish it off, I mean, super impressive. And I'll let you take the next one.
Yeah, so I mean, for the fight you just mentioned, though, so not necessarily our comeback fighter of the year award, but that would be in a nomination for our comeback fight of the year award.
Yes,
because,
so add that to the ledger.
Yes, because the way he came back in that fight, because he was getting pummeled by Mackie before. Yeah, so that's really worth mentioning. Secondly, was almost everybody's unanimous choice for submission of the year. Anthony Hernandez submitting Mr. Fluffy, submitting Rodolfo, the black belt killer Vieira, man, which is crazy because, again, he's the ADCC multiple time champion. He gasses out, and Fluffy, the major underdog, pulls off the submission over the guy that's, again, a decorated jiu-jitsu expert. So that was, you know, just incredible. So he gets not only a submission of the year nominee, but he gets an upset of the year nominee.
Yeah,
and that was really it for that card. Honestly, there was a nice Polyana Viana submission, but that was it for that card.
Yeah, I mean, you get to the next one, you talk about upset of the year nominees. You got Derek Lewis knocking the fuck out of Curtis Blades for a knockout and upset of the year nominee for Lewis. Like you put here so kindly in the notes as I steal it, Lewis was a plus 320 underdog and slept in bed with an uppercut. I mean, he shot right into it. And I mean, the sounds that Curtis Blades was making as he came to were like super scary. I'm not going to lie. Like that shit was weird. That's what happens when Derek Lewis connects with some leverage. I mean, that shit was nasty.
And it was just so apropos when you really think about it that Derek Lewis finishes the year in the same fashion as an underdog with a knockout of the year highlight. You know?
Honestly, you talk about comebacks. I mean, this one's really not on the ledger, but actually the Kunitskaya versus Ketlin Vieira, that shit was definitely a nice comeback and really a last-second buzzer beater. Well, I guess
in terms of decision, like stealing the eyes.
Yeah, exactly. But then we got Chris Daukaus and Tom Aspinall were both on this card, which is super fun for the heavyweight division. So I thought that was super interesting to see. But I mean, listen up. Yeah, there
was some stuff on this fight. Listen, you got John Castaneda's finish over poor Eddie Wineland, and I believe put him out of his misery in the UFC. I don't believe he was officially caught. Julian Erosa's flying knee of Nate Landwehr, one of our head-to-head matchups. I specifically remember because I was actually right on that one.
For sure.
You get Casey O'Neill, who starts her run in my mind as rookie of the year, and starts her UFC career with a finish over Shanna Dobson. And you have the crazy comeback of Ayman Zahabi, Ariel Helwani's evil twin, and he knocks out Draco Rodriguez like quick. And then you have Sergey Spivak just beating the piss out of Jared Van Dare, and that was a bloody mess. So honestly, like, it's really fun to touch on all these, different finishes and fights. So not really too many nominees on that card other than Derek Lewis himself. But
And Casey O'Neill, I think, for a newcomer of the year.
right. Well, that's like that's not like a specific performance. That was like a cumulative award for her. So
Yes. I get what you mean.
That like kicked off her campaign to
Right. Yeah. So then we get to our next card. You got Cyril Gahn versus Rosenstrike, and yeah.
This card was honestly, I remember when it even happened. This card was brutal, man. This was a brutal card. So for this card, there were 9 fights. 7 of them were decisions. There was a freaking draw, and then you had the TKO from Ronnie Lawrence,
which was in the third round.
And he had a great performance, and we were all super excited to see Ronnie Lawrence again. And then when he finally came to fight, he had a bad weight cut, and we only saw him. That was it. We didn't see him again.
Yep.
So, that card was pretty trash.
As we like to say, moving right along.
Yeah, moving right along. At least pretty trash in terms of trying to give out awards from. Not every card is something.
Of course. I mean, listen, we watched every single one, so that tells you anything. Our next one, this was probably the saddest card of the year for me as
100%. One of the most disappointing cards.
Depressing,
not disappointing, depressing.
Depressing because you wanted Adasanya versus Jon Jones as like a legitimate possibility, and that kind of flew out the window once Adesanya didn't win the light heavyweight belt. But I mean, you got to give it to Blachowicz. Great game plan, and he proved his mettle as a striker. But as you see, his defensive grappling, we'll get to that later in the year.
And honestly, forget how much I lost on Israel Adesanya. It's how much I lost on Peter Yan. I bet so much on Peter Yan. I think so much, and he was winning. The guy was dancing. We were dancing, and he knees him. And that line is gonna be gone. And
gone forever.
They just booked the rematch today for March 5th, so that's awesome. But
wait, that was a Nunes sub prop I actually hit on that time.
Woo! Yeah, Nunes actually decided to show up to that fight. Good for her. We haven't seen or heard anything from Megan Anderson since, so shout out to her Twitch page. But I don't know what else.
Yeah, no, she's out of the UFC. And then we had a crazy.
Sorry, I was gonna say Islam Makhachev, right? He starts his run for Fighter of the Year.
Crazy submission. You got Dominic Cruz making his return to the win column. Kyler Phillips Young Adong was a super fun fight. Askar Askarov introduces himself to the division. Kai France with that crazy
buzzer beater nominee. Buzzer beater nominee with only 5 seconds left in that first round.
Kennedy and Zejiku, that's kind of a comeback fight type of deal.
That was 100% comeback fight of the year.
Also, blowing your load type of fight as far as Carlos Obar goes.
So one of the reasons why it's not going to win the award, and maybe if there was a chronological list, it wouldn't be the highest on there, is because of such the low level that was Carlos Ulberg in the fact that in the way in which he gassed. Like it wasn't something that Kennedy did so well other than not falling down.
Right. And then you had
that's why I'm trying to explain, at least my thought process and where I'm thinking about it. So I'm moving right along.
That's fair. Yeah. I mean, Sean Brady started his great run in this year. Amanda Lemos, Urosh Medic. I'll let you take the cake on this one here.
That was, and this is in the running for worst stoppage of the year. So shout out referee Mark Smith for letting Elon Cruz just get pummeled over and over. The announcers are like, anytime now, Mark. Jeez, that was hard.
Yeah.
It was horrible.
Not great. I don't think Cruz landed one strike either. Like it was bad. And then Trevin Jones.
Really bad.
Welcome to the world, baby. I mean, that was his second knockout win in a row, right? He was flying high at that point. So
and he all that high momentum cost us money on whoever he lost to, who's now fighting for this opening card in the Giga Chikadze card coming up. What's that dude's name? He's like a Russian guy. I guess we'll get there when we get there, but
yes, we will. So our next card, we had the super unfortunate main event of Leon Edwards and Bilal Muhammad with the no contest eye poke. I mean, I had a Leon knockout bet, and I feel like I was definitely on my way to cashing that. And so, super disappointed to see how it played out.
I don't think you were on your way to cashing it. I think that was definitely going the distance.
Ryan Spann, Misha Serkinov was like a play of the day. Like, what the fuck was I doing? Next, Dan Egay and Gavin Tucker.
Well, I love Gavin Tucker, which was horrible.
Yeah.
That was Dan Egay's best performance of his UFC career.
Yeah, I mean, one punch knockout 20 seconds into the fight, the only strike you throw. Whew.
Matthias Nicolau, to me, starts his run here for possible, fighter of the year, or at least comeback fighter of the year, because he's made his return to the UFC this year. I believe with that fight. So he starts it off with Manel Kape, which is a tough fight.
And it's funny enough because Dan Egay didn't even have the fastest knockout on his own card, because that actually went to Matthew Semmelsberger, 16 seconds, and just absolutely obliterates Jason Witt. But as we found out later, that like Jason Witt like really just doesn't have a chin. So
what do you mean his own card? This isn't his card. This is Leon Edwards' card.
Well, like I guess I meant like Dan Egay, like he didn't even have the fastest knockout on the card at 22 seconds is what I meant to say. As nitpick. But
I'm just a nitpicker. Yeah, honestly, that Matthew Semmelsberger knockout. Weren't you on Jason Witt? Like,
no, I had Semmelsberger knockout in cash.
Somebody was on Jason Witt, and I was roasting them.
Fair enough. Our next card, it
was definitely you.
It was definitely not, because I cashed on Semmelsberger knockout plus money.
Of course it was
Brunson.
Money, but...
Talk about underdogs. I think Brunson versus Holland. I was riding the wave here with Derek Brunson. That was a great feeling to be cashing on the blonde Brunson train. So
the blonde Brunson train. So
that's been fun.
Buzzer beater of the year nominee for Grant Dawson with the last second of the fight knockout over Leonardo Santos. Like, that was incredible.
Yeah. Adrian Yanez, great knockout. I mean, that basically sums up that card Bruno Silva had a nice knockout himself.
And so did Montel Jackson, but not nominee worthy.
Yeah. It wasn't, wasn't a special overall.
And that's what these awards are for.
Yeah. And now talk about special overall performances.
UFC 260.
We cashed on Ngannou. That was
card
so
11,
nice.
by the way.
So nice. Cashing on Ngannou like that. I mean, what a feeling.
Ngannou.
What?
I was not on Ngannou.
Oh, I was. That felt
I know
great.
You were. Yeah, that was brutal watching my boy Stipe get finished like that. I don't think I was heavy on the fight. I just didn't bet Francis.
That's exactly it. And that knockout, I mean, geez.
How is it like nobody is giving that KO of the year nominee? Nobody.
I mean, that's definitely on the list. But I mean, not that we have the official award coming, but yeah, I mean, that shit. Yeah, that was nasty. And then you followed up with a sub of the year nominee for Vicente Luque,
who starts his run for fighter of the year nominee as well. With that incredible submission over Tyron Woodley. Woodley, had never been submitted before, like in his entire MMA career. So that was just incredibly impressive. And to do it with the Darce was just was deadly. And then you look at the Jamie Malarkey knockout over Kama Worthy. Malarkey continued to put his streak together, just booked a fight today. Would give him more credit, but unfortunately, Kama Worthy is one of those guys like Luke Rockhold, like Cody Garbrandt. Like, the chin is just gonzo. So can't give him too much credit, but the knockout was beautiful. And of course, and Sean O'Malley's beautiful knockout kind of over over Thomas Almeida. But Sean O'Malley, right? He puts on his 3 fights this year, 3 wins, 3 finishes. Hit in the running for fighter of the year as well. So UFC 260, man, card 11. That was a good one. We move right along.
Definitely. We got Kevin Holland coming back on extremely short notice after getting washed in the grappling against Derek Brunson, and it's a repeat.
He gets even more washed. The only person to ever use more grappling in a fight than Derek Brunson versus Kevin Holland was Marvin Vettori versus Kevin Holland. It was actually
in 2021. In 2021. So that shit was yeah, and being on Holland, yeah, that was a little disappointing from my aspect. It was kind of tongue in cheek play, but I still put like $20 on it, so it's not so tongue in cheek when you're putting actual money and ideas out there like that. But yeah, definitely wasn't the right idea. Also, wasn't the right idea putting money on Sadiq Yusuf versus Arnold Allen.
No,
Julian Marquez talked about putting a sub play on him, and I didn't. That was disappointing. Played Nina Nunes against Mackenzie Dern. That was disappointing.
And listen, one of the most disappointing things that happened, but was maybe one of the biggest lessons we learned, was Georges Donho beating Jorgen De Castro. Like De Castro was like a minus 300, which is ridiculous. Danho was plus 250. He hadn't fought in 4 years and wins by this dirty round 1 KO because De Castro is just poops. And people were parlaying him, probably us. Like you're thinking like because the guy hasn't fought in 4 years. But I'm telling you, he helped us develop our apple pie shitter detector. Like who's gonna shit the bed? Who's our bed shitter? And we look at the card, and that was one of the big ones that really taught us that lesson.
Yeah. A couple other lessons we had. John Makdessi over Ignacio Bahamondes. And
that fight. That fight was close. I don't know about that one, right? I mean, right? Well, he got punished to the face, but I feel like he didn't really strike Makdessi. It was a weird fight.
It was. I mean, really, not too much else that was, really notable there.
Because we quote unquote learned, and then we faded Bahamondes versus Roosevelt Roberts, and he put him on a poster with the knockout of the year spinning roundhouse kick that nobody's talking about.
It's true, but that's kind of where we learned, some Dana White Contender Series stuff versus a high level veteran taking a step down on a newcomer. That they can look better against them than a guy like Roosevelt Roberts, right? So, yeah, I mean, we got right onto our next card, Whittaker versus Gastelum. This was short notice, right?
This was crazy. So this card itself had 7 straight decisions. It was like I think like 8 decisions out of 11 fights or something like that. And then you also had the what did I want to say? I don't even remember what I was saying. But you had Robert Whittaker pretty much with the ass shaving of the year. Shout out to our boy Uncle Weezy. I mean, because Robert Whittaker just mopped the floor with Kelvin Gastelum.
Yeah. I mean, it was extremely one-sided, and Whittaker seemed to be out on a mission. Also, just crazy, the Malkoun versus Al-Hassan fight, going the distance with Malkoun just absolutely smothering in the wrestling. I was pissed.
I think that was one of my first fade the narrative spots with that fight going in the distance.
Well, also fading the narrative, I actually was betting against my boy Alexander Romanov with Juan Espino, and to see that nut shot, oh my god! And like, all right, so maybe he was in the hospital and shit happened after, so I got to take back some shit I might have said in the past about it. But to just see how that fight played out when Juan Espino was very clearly on his way to winning a 3rd round, so disappointing. Definitely. But we did catch Gerald Mearshart submission, so you gotta love that.
Yeah, and he puts on his starts his run for comeback fighter of the year with his 3 wins and 3 submissions, and that was, I believe, his first one.
So let's get on to one of the craziest cards of the year here.
That right? This was the first one with fans back. In where was it? In Tampa? In
Jacksonville.
Jacksonville. Mm-hmm. So in Florida, that was really incredible. The energy. So let's just start at the bottom. Like the Carnelose Liang fight. That fight was like almost fight of the year nominee, man. Like nobody remembers that, but at that the week after that fight, it was all anybody could talk about. But now nobody even mentioned it. Like that fight was freaking amazing, man. Jeff Molina puts on that amazing fight with Ariki Lang, right? So to me, the Jeff Molina performance, especially that 3rd round when he throws 100 strikes, like that's a performance of the year nominee, not a fight of the year. Whereas maybe the Carnelose fight was more like that was back and forth until she got the sub.
Yeah.
And then you have, and you want to finish up those last 2? I mean, the card was great, but
yeah, I mean, we had So we're talking Rose Namajunas. I mean, that was okay. First of all, I got to own up here. I took Jessica Andrade straight up. I went with the pick. I went with everything against Valentina Shevchenko. Oopsies, my bad, guys. All right. And Chris Weidman, floppy leg. Got to feel terrible for him. That was horrible.
And how about the floppy leg for Jimmy Crute?
Jimmy Crute also multiple floppy legs back to back. And then you have,
Shevchenko,
Andrade. So then you have Zhang. We're taking Zhang over Rose. And then boom! Not ideal. That was
knockout of the year nominee for sure. Just the sweetest head kick you ever want to see. And then you to follow that up with possibly the most cinematic knockout in one of the most cinematic knockouts in UFC history. The sweat, the hair, the way the fact that Masvidal had never been knocked out, Usman not being a strike. I mean, it was like Rocky-esque. It was just ridiculous.
Yeah, and I mean, I lost so much money leading up to that, and I threw $100 on Usman by knockout at like +2 something, I think, or +4. I forget exactly what the line was when I threw it down, but
money.
Yeah, I made the money back, so we were good.
Hell yeah. So moving right along, honestly, because that card had produced. So that's what I'm saying. So some of these cards, man, they produce like that was a card that had like 4 different nominations, like in my mind. So that's a lot.
Yeah. So talk about a nomination here.
Another one. So to me, you have to be picking really, right? I mean, because again, as great as Usman's knockout was, it's really between Sanhagen's knockout and this one, right?
Yeah.
For like for the most high profile, everybody's picking it knockout of the year award. Like
I take Jerry
knockout. Because you know what the other problem with this fight is though, is that everybody's giving it knockout of the year, bro. This was also fight of the year. People forgot, like Reyes took him down, was on top. He was slugging back, swinging.
He also knocked him down. He also knocked him out with an up kick.
Wobbled him. He made him do like the chicken dance. It was so crazy. So the whole fight was so wild, and it was just the finish and the overwhelming fight sequence from Jiri at the end there that really kind of erased everybody's opinion that it could even be a fight of the year nominee. But KO of the year nominee, I mean, that was ridiculous.
Yeah,
and the Giga kick as well. That was really cool, but not cool enough.
Yeah, I mean, it was against Cub, and I mean, liver kicks don't quite do it for knockout of the year. TJ Brown, Kai Kamaka, definitely seemed like a robbery watching it, but honestly, we'll be doing tape on that fight this week, so we'll talk more about that after we do our tape study for next week's event. So we got onto our next one here. We got it was Mojino Rodriguez versus Michelle Waterson, and
man, that main event was so disappointing in retrospect.
Especially
it was going to be going in. We weren't even that excited. It's just cards like that, like they happen, and it's okay. But it's not our favorite.
Yeah, we took Morono. Yeah, we took Morono.
You can like ice cream, right? And not like all flavors. Like it's all good.
But that Gillespie versus Fajeda fight, right?
Incredible fight of the year nominee in my mind, and for sure, at least more importantly, comeback fight of the year nominee. Who else but Gregor Gillespie could have continued that cardio pace? I mean, that was incredible. The grappling, the wrestling, the scrambles. I mean, he came out of nowhere with to start that round too with the gas tank and put it on Diego Ferreira.
Yeah, and I mean, I see you put a note here: Trezano versus Ludovic Klein, nominee for robbery of the year. I don't know. I thought Trezano might have actually outstruck him, and those takedowns really didn't do much for them for Klein.
Yeah, I'm not really 100% sure. Definitely need to rewatch it. You had Morono's finish of Donald Cerrone, who then has taken all this time off since then.
Smart.
and to kick off the card with one of my favorite thoughts, right? You want to start the card with a finisher, was Carlston Harris. He got his submission as the underdog in round 1. So one of those guys that I have is as one of those newcomers, rookies of the year. That because again, like 2 fights, 2 underdog spots, 2 finishes, like brutal.
Yeah. And especially as a bettor, those things stick out to you.
100%.
Now we got our
Card
next card here.
17, UFC 262.
Oliveira versus Michael Chandler. Whew, and that just showed the new resolve of Charles Oliveira. And I mean, that's got to be a Fighter of the Year nominee, right? Like
So
Charles Oliveira,
oh,
right?
for Oliveira, for sure. Charles Oliveira is absolutely everybody's Fight of the Year nominee, if not the winner. This fight specifically gets Comeback Fighter of the Year. I mean, Comeback Fight of the Year nomination. Probably gets Comeback Fight of the Year winner, most likely. I mean, the way that he was 10-8'd in round one to just KO him within 15 seconds of round two
Yeah.
was just amazing. And then, of course, rightful champ defends it against Poirier. You have another KO of the Year possibility with Edson Barbosa and Shane Burgos. That KO was scary, man, how he finished him late.
And that was a bar burner of a fight.
Absolutely. It really was. That fight was incredible. And then I think you have like the true hardcore fans, one of their sub of the year nominees, if not one of the main picks for the winner, with Andre Muniz breaking Jacare's arm in round one there.
Unreal.
Jacare never been submitted before in MMA. Amazing. And then you give a little nod similarly to Priscilla Cachoeira with a comeback performance of the year award there, possibly with her against Mazzani, but again, similarly, like we had discussed before, with the which fight was that? The Nzechiku and what's his name? Olberg. Similarly, like the level of competition, because Mazzani gas is known to gas. It's not as impressive, but Mazzani was winning until she wasn't.
I agree. And our next card, we got Font versus Garbrandt. This was certainly an eye opener, as we were all over Garbrandt, and didn't really work out in our favor, I'll tell you that. But we also were on Carlos Esparza, and that one
which
really
was huge,
out.
and nobody was. Yeah,
Nobody.
that was big. Nobody.
That was
like,
a huge
that was
one.
big.
That felt good.
It really did feel good, and it's picks like that made us, at least somebody like me, feel like, okay, I do belong out here doing this handicapping stuff, because we do see things.
Right. And I think seeing Chris Barnett make his debut on short notice, he definitely gassed out and just kind of like said, "Hey Ben, can you just choke me out so we don't have to keep doing this anymore?"
Exactly.
Shout out. And then you got another shout out here
for yeah, definitely. So you got David Devorak with, in my opinion, possibly the submission of the year. He's a minus 600 favorite, so he does what he's supposed to do against Ronderos, but a rear naked choke in round one with one arm. He does it with one arm. Like, I've never, done jujitsu very like in real life, but like, that shit's hard, man. I watch enough to know that
what
hard.
fantasy life have you done jujitsu in?
Exactly.
Yeah, we got our and we're gonna see another one of those actually soon. We have our next card, Giardinio Rosenstrike versus Augusta Sakai. Felt
those
good to cash on Jair.
It did, and those Rosenstrike cards, unfortunately, never really. They were not really super entertaining, honestly.
No.
But you do get a buzzer beater of the year nomination for Rosenstrike, who gets the KO with 1 second left in the round.
And then poor Walt Harris.
Yeah, poor Walt Harris.
Gregory Rodriguez, maybe a newcomer of the year type of deal. He certainly had an impressive first year in the UFC.
He definitely did. RoboCop, Barack Obama.
Yeah, Manon Fiorot, another knockout here. So that's another one that I had in the running. And Claudio Puelles makes his return to the UFC. Unanimous decision. Puelles. And Sean Woodson, a good prospect, having a nice win. Now we move on. UFC 263. This card had a few nominations.
So this was my first ever card that I've attended live. First ever seeing fights live. So that was just amazing. First time ever in Arizona. It was just, I was at the official weigh-ins. Just the whole experience was so amazing, so incredible. And the fights, the card in the running, in my opinion, for pay-per-view of the year. The card itself was incredible. Probably doesn't win because the main event fight itself, Izzy versus Marvin, was kind of a snooze fest, I guess. But Brandon Moreno winning the title versus Davidson Figueiredo was, again, everybody's possibly, submission of the year winner for most people, right? Like that's another really popular one. We're gonna have to break down that fight again in 2 weeks, not 2 weeks, for 2 cards or whatever. That's really exciting. The Leon Edwards Nate Diaz fight was, I guess, kind of boring until that last round. The other couple amazing things, right, was Paul Craig with his Performance of the Year nomination
Yeah.
over Jamal Hill there. That was impressive. The way he broke his arm essentially and stopped the fight, or dislocated his elbow, I guess. And then Terrence McKinney's Knockout of the Year nomination, 7 seconds, and then gets Donkey of the Year for fucking up his own knee after jumping off in the cage.
Yeah, I mean, that must
Seriously,
have been a super fun card to be at.
It really was. The energy was off the hook, man. Everybody was so loving Moreno because it was so close to his hometown of Tijuana.
I mean, certainly a very fun time. We end up having our own trip later in the year we'll tell you about. Then you got our next card here. Zombie versus Egay. So Egay made his return back off of that crazy performance. And did we get Zombie at plus money?
Dude, it was right before kickoff of the fight itself, and we smashed Zombie at like plus 110 or plus 120. It was dumb.
Yeah,
and
didn't make any sense.
I wish I would have bet the house because he mopped the floor with him. That 48-47 is egregiously wrong.
Yeah, you got Cheeto versus Davy Grant. Certainly a comeback of the year nominee for Marlon Cheeto Vera.
Without question. Oh my God, he got pulverized in that first round in terms of, especially with his slow starting, and then he just came back to dominate. And really, that round 3 was vicious, like brutal to watch.
And we also cashed on another underdog, right? Matt Brown. Matt Brown with the knockout over Lima, right?
No, we were.
I did. No, I had Matt Brown by KO.
I might have to check the tickets on that. I might have to call the tickets on that one.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
for sure that was one of the knockouts of the year, though, because again, one of those knockouts of the year that no one is talking about. He slept him so bad. That was one of the worst sleeps. Like that was up there with with Blades getting slept in terms of how badly you're just put into the shadow realm. Like he was asleep.
Yeah, I do remember being on Lara Procopio over Casey O'Neill. Oopsies.
And then she gets cut. Brutal. Ricky Glenn. I was trying to tell you to bet Ricky Glenn plus money. You couldn't trust him. Blah blah blah. I couldn't sell you on it, and he didn't. Quick.
Also, I bet Kanako Murata as against Vrina Jandiroba. That was upsetting.
I was begging you not to bet that one. You could.
You were right.
You have like this thing for short Asian women. I'm not sure what it is, and you just could not get off of it.
Okay. Anyways, moving right along.
You lost money on Luma too. You literally love them. I don't know what it is. The short, fiery Asian chicks.
I don't know. We had Cyril Gane versus Alexander Volkov, and
this was brutal. That was one of the
continued the trend of trying to fade Cyril Gane and failing.
What he showed me was his incredible hand speed. When we're breaking down him versus Ngannou, I look to this fight versus Volkov more than I will versus Lewis.
Yeah.
I mean Lewis in the same respect though, because he's gonna do the same job of picking his shots and being able to avoid the what Ngannou is looking for, which is the same thing Lewis was looking for, which is that signature knockout.
Right.
So Gane puts on a hell of a performance here, starts his run for a lot of people's choice for fighter of the year. Tanner Boser, right, with his knockout over OSP. That was nice. Timur Valiev puts on a decent performance there. Ronnie Barcelos, right? And anything else specific that we had written down? Jeremiah Wells with that absolutely vicious KO of Alves.
Yeah,
that was
for sure
crazy. Just the way he reacted after that animalistic scream. He was even like when he saw himself on camera, I'll never forget it. Like he was like looking at like the face of an ad, like he was like almost ashamed of how like enraged he was. Like I don't know, it was just so crazy to really see a fighter see that side of themselves. I don't know, it was really cool.
Yeah. Our next card.
Card 23.
Oh man, Poirier versus McGregor 3.
Oh, we got our show from little Phil. Phil saying,
"Oh, there he is. Hey, what's going on, Doc? Dr. Phil.
The doctor is in."
Poirier once again comes out triumphant.
See, and that's another performance. So this is a performance of the year as opposed to the knockout, because the knockout wasn't as impressive as this performance itself.
Yeah, O'Malley just absolutely pours it on Chris Moutinho. And then Tai Tuivasa, that was fun as fuck seeing him knock the shit out of Greg Hardy. Love it.
Like broke his orbital socket or something. He fucked his eye up good.
Yeah, bad.
That was awesome. You saw Irene Aldana had a nice KO. But really Ilya Topuria with the vicious knockout of Ryan Hall was one of the sights to be seen for sure. Yeah, can move right along, honestly.
Yeah,
I mean, and Zaglas Amagulov's submission, that was nice for him, I'm sure. But
but it was
a standing, the standing guillotine over the guy 6 inches taller than him. that fucking scrub. That was awesome.
Next we had Islam Makhachev versus Thiago Moises.
That's twice. Hang on, that's twice in a row that we didn't really talk about the McGregor fights, like at all. Like McGregor broke his ankle in that fight. Like that shit was crazy. And it honestly, it set us up to be on Poirier versus Oliveira stupidly. Like because of the level, for whatever reason, we still held McGregor at, like we really based those fights too high. And in actuality, he had spent the better part of a year getting his ego inflated against a guy that was not focused or not at the same level. So he comes out against Oliveira and, so I don't know. It's just kind of interesting. Anyway, those cards were awesome. I'm really, as much as it sucks to stay, I'm still really excited to see what story McGregor will still write for himself as time goes on. Because you have to figure that he's going to fight, probably by at least like maybe July or September or something of 2022. Yeah.
I totally agree.
Card 24.
Makhachev versus Moises.
So if you guys remember, right, that was not even the main event. Like that was a main event they put together that week.
Yeah.
So that was really weird.
Miesha Tate's return.
Yep, that was cool for Miesha Tate. She finishes Marion Renault, who like just quit.
Garbrandt.
So honestly, should be a short list for submission of the year. The Kimura early in round 1. Dirty.
Yeah. And maybe that just shows where Jeremy Stephens is at this point. Billy Q, we gotta love Billy Q. I know Guru actually got to meet up with him recently.
Yeah, at the CFFC 104 show. That was again another thing that was just so amazing this year to be able to do. But yeah, ran into Billy Q out there, one of the nicest guys ever, man. So just shout out Billy Q. Really, really cool guy. He gets so this again, a KO of the year nominee in some level, because listen, does he put him to sleep? Is it amazing like Blades is? No. I would like getting knocked out by Blades. Like, no. But Billy Q gets the TKO from the back. He's on his back. He's got guarded, like he's got the hooks in, and he's pounding him this way, and he knocks him out. Like it's incredible.
Yeah.
It's really an incredible performance.
And then Lemos,
told him that when I saw him.
I agree. I can't believe you didn't. Amanda Lemos, how about that knockout? Yeah. Conejo running forward, knocked down, and I mean that was Tognoni seems to have saved her from whatever. I mean, it was a weird ending to the fight, but that was just a crazy knockout, and I mean. Betting on Malcolm Gordon versus Francisco Figueiredo was actually pretty fun. Cashing on that.
That was awesome. That was a great call by you. And again, one of those things that makes you feel like we're doing something right out here.
Yeah, we learned from the De Castro fight, right?
So this card was amazing, man. That main event with Sanhagen Dillashaw with again. I said it I feel like a broken record on some level, but truly nobody's talking. That fight was fight of the freaking year, man. I think people were just disappointed because they felt like Sanhagen won, which I hate to break it to you, but he didn't.
Yeah.
And It was 2-2 going into the fifth, and that fifth was about as close as it gets. I just feel like Sanhagen doesn't win that fight just based on because he had all the chances to win and didn't. Like every single time he had the chance to close the door, he would like throw a spinning elbow or something and let TJ get off. Like TJ was so hurt in that fight with the cut and the torn knee, and for him to gut it out was again like fight of the year nominee. Like that was incredible.
Julian Paiva versus Kyler Phillips. That should have been a draw.
Yeah.
Elkins, crazy comeback victory. Gotta love it. Great knockouts from Yanez, Imavov, Julio Arce,
Eubanks,
Eubanks. I mean, just the ground and pound domination.
Some pure domestic violence on the ground there.
And then one of the robberies of the year here, Macy Barber versus Miranda Maverick. I mean, Maverick maybe just doesn't do enough to like seal a victory, but I mean, it really seemed like she definitively won a couple rounds there.
Like I had rewatched that fight, that second round was about as close as it freaking gets, and Macy won the third. So tough.
Fair enough. Yeah, and Adrian Yanez versus Randy Costa, Dr. Pepper versus Reese's. So that was super fun for the fans.
That was super fun. Shout out Adrian Yanez, a follower of at least me on Twitter. I don't know if he follows Chronic Combat. I think he does.
Yeah. Then we got Uriah Hall versus Sean Strickland.
Card 26. So we're cruising through them, but it is interesting to really go through each card here.
Hall versus Strickland, see what pops out.
Main event. I mean, shout out Sean Strickland for just beating the piss out of Uriah Hall for 5 rounds. But Cheyenne Velismus, so I guess we should say she was still married at the time. The craziest thing about that card, right, was that that was the one we had 4 different co-main events. Like Ronnie Yaya was supposed to fight, and then it was somebody else supposed to fight. Like that card just kept I think that was like the 5th co-main event or something.
Yeah,
do you remember that?
It kept on cycling through. It was so weird. Jared Gooden, crazy knockout. Also a nice, right hand. Melcy Bogdasarian, nice knockout.
I lost both of those fights being fucking stupid.
Now, we didn't learn our lesson because then Brian Barberena was a huge favorite, and we didn't bet Jason Witt just based off of what guys are worth, what price.
Yeah.
Who's really worth a minus 300. But however, we did cash on Zaruk Adashev versus Ryan Benoit.
Yep. And listen, but
Rafa Garcia versus Chris Grutzmacher, right?
No,
we lost because we were on Garcia.
Right.
And should he ever deserve a minus 300?
No, we didn't pick up on the nuke that was Chris Grutzmacher. I mean, the nuke that was Rafa Garcia. And then, so this card actually was a really bad card for us. Wait, can you go back for a second? No, you're scrolling. Thank you. Because we also got bailed. We were all over Danny Chavez at plus money, and we got bailed out because he really shouldn't. He didn't deserve a draw, and he really probably should have lost. This was a really brutal card for us. And really the worst part, I still remember kicking myself for not just, again, and this is what I think we'll learn hopefully this year, as opposed to looking at this whole card and picking this and picking that and picking this and picking that. I remember kicking myself for a month that I didn't bet everything on Strickland by decision. Uriah Hall, maybe he's going to knock him out. Maybe. Bro, I knew Strickland was going to win by decision. I knew he wasn't. I knew it was at least going to go 3-4. I knew it. And, I barely played Strickland. I cashed a little bit. And, it was just shit like that. We lose money betting. I lose money taking a dog shot on Colin Anglin instead of, putting my eggs in the Strickland basket. So it's just shit like that. But we'll learn.
Fair enough. Now we keep on moving along here. We had Derek Lewis versus Cyril Gahn.
Card 27. So this card was really interesting. I was at the Mets Phillies game, and then I went to the Counting Crows fight. I did not watch this card live. It was the first card I didn't watch live in literally forever.
And I was at a wedding, so we both actually missed this card together. For the first, exactly. It was so serendipitous.
I did not even watch the main card. I didn't watch it until whatever it was 3 weeks later until it came out on ESPN Plus.
Yeah, I mean, Luque versus Chiesa, disappointing. We were on Chiesa.
I'll be honest. As far as pay-per-views go, this was the best pay-per-view to miss. I don't there were some good fights and all. Don't get me wrong, but Not really. Like, if you paid money to go see Cyril Gahn, Derek Lewis, and you watch Derek Lewis throw 3 strikes, and then you paid money for the co-main of Jose Aldo, Pedro Munoz, and Aldo mopped the floor with him in a really, honestly, like, it's a boring fight. Like, it's cool and all, like, we love fights, but it's a boring fight. They set a sparring pace, and Aldo mopped the floor with it. Like, it was boring. And then we lost huge money on Michael Chiesa. Like, it was and you know, I had taken a shot on Casey Kenny, and that was a close fight. So, you know, all in all,
realistically,
cool fight, cool card. Right, fight of the year nominee for Rafael Fiziev and Bobby Green. That fight was amazing. And again, Vicente Luque's submission over Luque was a sub of the year nominee. I mean, that was incredible. He was almost borderline comeback of the year nominee because he was losing the first minute and a half of that fight until he pulled the Darce out of his ass. It was amazing. Actually, it was really because Chiesa made a mistake going for submission over position, but whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Next card, we had Cannonier versus Gastelum. We were all over Cannonier. Great move.
That was beautiful.
Vince Pichel was also another one of our big plays. And Pantoja over Royval.
This was a better card for us. We really rebounded here.
However, we also
we had Austin Lingo. We
took Brian Maj by sub.
We had Brian Kelleher.
But we also had Roosevelt Roberts over Bahamondes, like we spoke about earlier, and Bam Malarkey over Josiane Nunez.
Yes, those were brutal. But seriously, that Ignacio, nobody's talking about it. That Bahamondes spinning wheel kick KO was fucking gorgeous. And it was a buzzer beater of the year nomination.
Yes.
5 seconds left in the entire fight.
Like, I would give it that, you know.
Like, if you had to take away the Giri and the Sanhagen knockouts, he probably gets it. Like, that knockout was so clean. Fucking sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really, next card. We had our finale of The Ultimate Fighter, Barboza and Chikadze headlined it.
That was just a cool card. It was a cool idea. It was a cool poster. All that stuff was cool. I really like that. I'm really excited to see what they do with season 30 of Tough this year. I know that that's like a what is that, like a controversial opinion, like pineapple on pizza, but I really do enjoy Tough. I enjoy Dana White Contender Series too. I enjoy it all, but I still enjoy my Tough.
Yeah, I think, you know, they had a great fight, Ricky Tercios and Highstand, you know, fight of the year nominee. Abdul Razak Al Hassan gives DeChirico a taste of his own medicine a couple months later.
17-second round 1 head kick KO. Brutal. And he was an underdog. Bro, so this is what I'm saying. So this is where we did learn our lesson, though. We were so adamant on it. DeChirico was I remember talking about it on the pod. He was like a minus 300 favorite. It made no fucking sense.
Right. But we also bet Mahmoud Muradov in a parlay, and that was very disappointing. And Gerald Mearshart, honestly, for me, that is a comeback of the year nominee. I mean, he was out on his feet at least 4 times in the first round, shoots in, takedowns, all this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, he probably gets your comeback fighter of the year award because of a down year last year, followed by
the Kamzat train
submission. Yeah, really. I mean, he had a really poor year. He had lost 3 of his last 4 fights. And then coming into this year, and then rattled off 3 in a row with 3 finishes.
So
our
next
really
card.
Well, sorry, you can't do that yet because you didn't talk about Pat Sabatini's incredible submission over Jamal Emmers after getting rocked. It was really dumb of Jamal Emmers to go play on the ground with him.
Yes.
But Pat Sabatini's incredible crazy heel hook to like break Jamal Emmers' leg, like that was fucking sick.
Well, that's just nasty.
Card number 30, Brunson versus Till. I still kicking myself so hard reading too much into stats thinking that fucking Darren Till could keep it standing. Like that's
you kept me from betting Brunson,
so
and I still blame myself.
So dumb. Like I don't know what. Like it was, and again, but you know what? We're even because then you did the same thing to me. I wanted to bet Bilal Muhammad, and you kept me on Wonderboy Thompson. So
you're right.
Consider us even, and let us both hope that we are both smarter in terms of those specific kind of matchup fallacies. And then the stats, like, oh, Bilal's he's a 20% wrestler, and Wonderboy has a 78% takedown defense. Who gives a fuck, yo? He's about to take him down 12 times he's gonna spam wrestle. Like, we know it. Until same thing. He's got an 85% takedown defense. Brunson's gonna spam wrestle him. It doesn't matter. And that's what he did. And we miss out on dog money, easy dog money because of it. Because that's like when we're thinking too much. That shit annoys the fuck out of me. But that's why we're doing this year in review pod, and it's going a little longer than I thought. But I'm really enjoying the conversation, the thinking it out again.
Yeah, and so Paddy Pimblett, we tried fading him.
Paddy Pimblett
with Luigi Vendramini, and Scousers don't get knocked out.
Wait, I'm not real cash cow, man.
I'm a Scouser. We don't get knocked out.
You put me in the video game, dude. That shit. Listen, that was the Mike of the Year award for him. I mean, he's incredible in that respect. That was fucking awesome. Him and Bisping should have their own show. But honestly, I'm not even mad about fading Paddy. Paddy was losing. He gets comeback of the year nominee. He was getting pummeled the whole freaking fight until he puts together that last 45-second bam 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 combination and puts him to sleep. And then you also see a comeback of the year nominee for Julian Erosa, in my mind, getting pieced up by Charles Jourdain. But again, Charles Jourdain, the classic gasser, same linear thought as we talked about before. And Erosa comes back and gets that finish. So, but he does the classic Erosa third round submission thing. So.
He also had the other Scouser, Molly McCann. Molly McCann.
They got fight of the year for that. I mean, fight of the year. Geez, Louise, they got fight of the night for that fight.
That was a fun one. Fight.
That was a great comeback for her. So she gets a comeback of the year nominee as well, in my mind. Like, she got the brakes beater off her in that round one.
Yeah.
So our boy Nate Maness gets comeback of the year, right? Comeback of the year nominee. At least for sure on this card 31, Smith versus Spann.
Yeah.
Tony Gravely, man, was our best bet. And,
our bet 4 units, bro.
And I can't wait to ask Nate about this. Like, what was kind of going through his head and how he felt. And, was there something about Tony that maybe really challenged him or surprised him that kind of led him to that position? And then, how he ended up pulling through, coming in with the possible, comeback of the year nominee in the way that, again, he was out. Like, he was literally out, and he pulled himself out of it and put the dude out, put Tony Gravely out.
Very impressive, and had a few other nice knockouts on the card.
A bunch. Yeah, why don't you talk about a few of those? Because again, we also have one of my guys, Carlston Harris, with another freaking finish, man. His puts himself in the running, right? Like I had mentioned before. But give me those other finishes on the card, man.
Yeah, so I mean, the other ones that I thought were super fun were we had we had Arman Sarukian had a nice finish over Christos Yagos, Joaquin Buckley. We were on Antonio Arroyo, and that third round, Arroyo just couldn't keep it up, lost his gas, and Buckley just ended up finishing him. Great comeback win. Iwan Kudelaba was a fun fight, but as far as finishes go, I mean, Jurong over Brandon Jenkins. Coming on short notice. That was fun. I mean, how did JP Bays not get knocked out by Montel Jackson? We actually had that fight going the distance to fade the narrative, but we got lucky.
Yes, we did. He had 4 knockdowns in that last round or something. That was crazy. Was it Chris Tyone? I bet Chris Tyone was the referee. That was really a crazy breaking fight.
So that was super fun, and I mean,
finishing Impa, man, and then kicking him out of the UFC was dirty. That was awesome.
Yeah. So our next card,
card 32. We're getting really close to the finish now. We have about 11 left.
Wow,
UFC 266, Volkanovski versus Ortega was an absolutely incredible card. Again, probably one of your up there for pay-per-view of the year, probably number 2 or 3 in my mind. I mean, the card was so freaking good, man. And the way it was capped off, like sometimes I get my mom to watch fights. My parents absolutely loved the Volkanovski Ortega fight and absolutely loved the Merab Dvalishvili Marlon Moraes fight. I had them just happened to be watching both of those specifically live, and they were like on the edge of their seat cheering. Like, I mean, that was incredible fights. 2 fight of the years, a comeback nominee of the year, comeback of the year nominee for Merab. performance of the year for Volkanovski in my mind, and possible fight of the year. Yeah, I mean the Robbie Lawler fight, that was awesome with Nick Diaz, right? But the ending was kind of shit. It kind of marred it in my mind. And whatever. What do you think, man? Chris Dawkins over Shamil. That was mean.
Yeah, that was just not fair. Then I mean,
Oh,
you
then we
had
have
Jalen Turner. That was a sick finish. We were all over him.
he just has a fight book today too. I can't wait to see him fight.
And Semmelsberger versus Sano. That was
15 seconds.
Yeah.
That was him fighting your grandpa, bro. That was so unnecessary. That guy should not be in the UFC.
No, not at all. And so no, it was definitely a super fun card. One that we actually didn't get to put a show out for, but it was we did have some winners nonetheless that we were posting on our official plays.
Yeah, listen, that was one of the main ones that we had spent the time researching, I think, and yeah, but we actually didn't we do really well on our bets though?
We did, and we posted them, so it was definitely a great feeling. And on to our next card, we had Thiago Santos versus Johnny Walker, and talk about upsets of the year. That was this fight to go the distance was like plus 700 or something by the time the fight started. So
yeah, we should have taken that. Should have faded the public narrative there for sure.
The no contest with the clash of heads for Holland and Dawkins. That was interesting. However, tell us about a great call we had.
Oh, how about Nico Price over Alex Oliveira? That was beautiful. We had Jocko over Serkinov. That was nice.
But our dog of the day.
Our dog of the day was chef's kiss. Jamie freaking Malarkey kicking the snot out of Devontae Smith, man. We didn't understand why Devontae Smith was at that line. I thought he'd win. We kind of teased and joked about Malarkey getting the KO, and Smith had gotten KO'd before, whatever. Bro, he got KO'd.
Yeah, that was nasty.
Like KO of the year nominee for my boy, Jamie Malarkey. And then you see Douglas Silva de Andrade.
Yes.
His own, honest to God. And then I don't want to be, we're saying it for a lot of these fights, but I swear to God, man, he knocked Perillo off of his feet. Perillo was hanging in the air, knocked out. It was fucking sick. That's a knockout of the year nominee, man. You deserve a ribbon, a trophy, an accolade for excelling. That shit was dirty.
I think he got 50K.
Oh, for sure. Oh, yeah, 100% got 50K.
No, but yeah. But no, you're right. I mean, you got to get some more recognition for something like that.
Yeah, so I'm really happy to give it to him because he really deserved it. And then these next two cards we should be able to power through because they were.
Yeah, I mean, so I was all over Rodriguez and I felt that was nice. Nicolau, we were all over.
I was on
Elliott.
To fuck off.
I was on Sabina Mazo. We were on Sabina Mazo, so that was a tough one with Agapova.
But that was one of those ones I tried to talk into Agapova.
Yes.
I remember we had a guest on, and he agreed with the. Oh, we had. I believe this was Sun Tzu. Shout out our boy.
Yes.
And he agreed with you, and I didn't really. I didn't feel strongly enough, but I like Agapova's style, and that's exactly what came to fruition for her.
We said Romanov over 1.5.
Chris Gutierrez, by the way, that was that's a disgusting split decision. That should be unanimous. Chris Gutierrez beat the snot out of Felipe Corrales. Come see me.
That was bad. That was bad. And Loopy with a nice first round finish. And
and Steve Garcia gets the finish over Ontiveros. Ontiveros is a sad sack. Poor little guy. Poor little fella.
We had this fight inside the distance, but we were also all over Dumont. So dumb.
Honestly, we had done so bad on the Dern Rodriguez card with just whatever we wanted to accomplish that we really didn't feel strongly about this. The card was marred by like weight misses and just weird switches.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean,
it was tough. It was a tough card.
Yeah, it was, and you know what? I think it's best we leave that in the past. So
yeah, listen, nice finishes from Carnelossi, Batgirl, Bruno Silva, Nate Landwehr, Jim Miller with the KO of the year nominee for himself. That was fucking awesome. He smashed that dude.
And then onto a more interesting card. We had Marvin Vittori.
Card number 36.
Marvin Vittori versus Paulo Costa. I mean, that was a fucking fight, huh?
Honestly, so this card kicked off a run of 4 cards. These next 4 cards, this card started it. I mean, There was I forget what it was. It was in 2020. It was the run over the summer of the pay-per-views, the 3 summer pay-per-views. But these 4 cards in a row were the best run of fucking fights that I could remember in any time. Seriously, like really, when we talk about this, like star this at 114 here. Like this shit, these next 4 cards were unbelievable. So it starts, like you said, with Costa Vittori. That fight gets Fight of the Year nominee. Costa Vittori was a freaking slugfest, man. We were all over Vittori, and he dominated the fight. But the way that Costa came back and won round 5, it was just a great fight, man. Grant Dawson gassing out in round 3 versus Ricky Glenn was ridiculous. Jessica Rose Clark made her return. We were really happy to see that. We loved making plus money on Alex Caceres. He gets a great submission. And possible, honestly, comeback of the year nominee in the way he was getting beat down by Sungwoo Choi. Sungwoo gets the point deduction and he climbs his way back, climbs his back quick and submits him. Yeah, nice finish from Nega Moreno, but doesn't get an award from me. So I was wondering about this. I didn't think of any other specific spots. Maybe our viewers might know if anybody wants to in the crowd wants to be good. But Gregory Rodriguez fight round 2, that round could have been round of the year. With Young Park, that back and forth in round 2 was honestly possibly the most exciting round of the entire year. And then the Onama and Jones fight. That fight was crazy. Jones was a tank.
Showed a lot in that fight, especially on like a short notice type of deal.
Nice finishes from Jai Herbert and a great performance again. A nice finish from Jeff Molina. So moving right along to card 37. UFC 267, Jan Blachowicz versus Glover Teixeira in Abu Dhabi. So again, we follow up that Costa Vittori card right on the heels of that Costa Vittori fight, which was just so delicious. And then we get this absolutely incredible, possibly card of the year. Really. I mean, not that most people couldn't really attend it because it's in Abu Dhabi, but this card was incredible. Can you please, you can steal my notes. Can you just break down this card for us?
Yeah, so
there's so much on it.
So here we go. I mean, we had Glover Teixeira versus Jan Blachowicz, sub of the year nominee for Teixeira, underdog for the belt, as old as he was, counted out, and man, it was so nice to see Glover reach the pinnacle there and get towards the top and really just really prove his worth,
Hadn't fought for the belt since he fought freaking Jon Jones at I don't know, maybe it was 167, not 161, I don't know, 157. It was a while, 187. It was a long freaking time ago.
Yeah, so super impressive. And then love the fact that we were all over Petr Yan and over 1.5 fight of the year nominee, but it was kind of like Jan was still controlling the majority of it for however long it lasted. So I do think that you can almost lean more towards a performance type of deal. But it's up to interpretation. Islam Makhachev versus Dan Hooker, just the execution on that Kimura, very similar to what we were talking about earlier with Mateusz Gamrot. Super impressive. Khamzat Chimaev absolutely brutalizing Li Zhengliang. I stupidly was betting on Li.
Performance. So to me, Khamzat gets performance of the year, not only nominee, he gets the award. That performance, that ass shaving was insane. Li Jiang is he's a legit fighter, man. You didn't put him in there with Chris Mutino. Right. Shout out to that guy. You didn't put him in there with a certain skill set and this and that. The dude's legit. And he just got absolutely manhandled. And by the way, that fight, Jon Jones, Glover Teixeira, UFC 172 in April of 2014. So 7 years it takes him to get back to a title shot, and he gets it done. So that's why you were so happy to see that for him.
Also, Lerone Murphy, knockout of the year nominee, also one of those comeback of the year type of deals, but because it happened so early in round 2, you don't quite see it as much of a comeback. But I mean, he was absolutely being grappled in round 1, and to see him time that flying knee and just absolutely crumple Amir Khani, that shit was crazy.
God. I honestly don't even know if Amir Khani's awake yet.
Yeah, and then Andre Petrosky versus Hu Yaozhang. Definitely took Hu Yaozhang because of the size differential
I
and
did
just
not.
like a little shot I did. But yeah, not the best of ideas. And yeah, buzzer beater of the year type of nominee. 14 seconds left, but it wasn't really like it wasn't as cool as like a Bahamondes one because
No,
like it
no,
was just inevitable, you know.
yeah,
Um,
he really wanted it though. A lot of people had bet Andre Petrosky very chalky by finish, so I'm sure they were all really happy. And at CFFC 104, I did get to say what up to Andre Petrosky as he walked by. It was super cool. I felt like maybe I could have got the picture, but I don't know. I just kind of let him do his thing, and I just said, "What up, man? Good to see you." You know, gave him his props.
Hell yeah! And finally, this is the card that we went to, my
Card of the year.
friends. This
Card
is
of the
it,
year.
card of the year. And
Okay,
maybe
well,
we're biased, but fuck
I
you
don't.
guys.
Yeah, I mean, we might be, but I really don't. I don't. This card was fucking stacked. The arena was incredible. MSG, the best, the pinnacle of the world in terms of sports arenas. Incredibly special. And you, as you can see by my notes, I think I have like 9 nominees on this fucking card. Like the card was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, so we go from the top here. Usman Covington, that's a fight of the year type of deal. And for Covington to survive after being knocked down twice, incredible. How about that knockout from Marlon Vera on Frankie Edgar? That oh god, that's a meme. You know, you got to feel terrible for Frankie Edgar.
Awful. Oh my, his face. I don't even like to look at that photo of his face being melted by the foot.
And then
Shane
mhm.
Burgos, Billy Q. Any other card, that fight gets fight of the year. I mean, Jesus, any other card, that card gets the fight of the night bonus. By the way, when I met Billy Q told me, and I think he said it elsewhere, but he told me specifically that Dana took care of him and he got it a little extra bonus.
Oh yeah.
For sure. So so that's all. I mean, but again, that fight was freaking a slobber knocker, man. But the problem was, and you were there, TV, the crowd was exhausted from Gaethje and Chandler. Which, by
Yes.
the way, but you know what's funny? I think we weren't as exhausted because we were like not only like rooting for it, but like mentally prepared for it to go. Like that's what we talked about it all
Yeah,
on the
we bet
pod.
fight goes the distance. Yep.
I bet Justin Gaethje to win by unanimous decision. That was a specific prop on FanDuel that I got at like plus 380 or
Yeah.
something. So like I was
Yeah.
very happy to play that. Like
Alex Pereira versus Michailidis. That's a comeback of the year type of deal, given how much he was grappled early, and then
KO of the year.
and then boom, knockout of the year with that flying knee. It just perfectly timed, beautiful stuff. Chris Curtis versus Phil Hawes. Still like gloating off of that victory that we shared with Die Hard, who brought us to the tinfoil land and knockout of the year, upset of the year. I mean, Chris Curtis, how about that type of debut?
I stupidly did not pick it. Like we talked about it all up and down on the pod, and then I didn't pull the trigger on it, and I hate myself for it. So that really upset me. But we had the right idea. So you just really got to stick to your shit more. Ian Gary, man, with getting the buzzer beater with the 1 second left in round 1 after losing that entire first round, gets the KO, sleeps him bad, sleeps him
Chris
so bad.
Barnett. Chris Barnett versus John Vellante. How about that spinning wheel kick?
And again, an incredible spinning wheel kick. I mean, Gian Volante's totally phoning it in there. Didn't want to be there, but just amazing. And again, we don't even all that, and we didn't even mention the Rose Namajunas Wellington fight, which was great. And
Great fight.
and the finishes from Imavov and Bobby Green, which were great. So that card in itself, we had to talk about every single fight in detail. And by the way, Justin Gaethje, Michael Chandler. I mean, I'm sorry, it may be like, and that's probably fight of the year, right?
Yeah.
That's really probably is. I mean, because otherwise, I mean, in my mind, it's probably either that one or the next fight, which is Holloway and Rodriguez. So it's probably in my mind, it's either Chandler Gaethje or Holloway Rodriguez for fight of the year.
Right. So now that we gloated over our amazing time at UFC 268, we're gonna pick the
And
pace
by the way,
back up a little bit here.
by the way, that ties together my four event thing I was talking
Yes.
about before. You got Costa Vittori, 267, 268, and then Holloway Rodriguez, which again, Holloway Rodriguez being a fight of the year nominee for sure.
Yes.
Without a doubt.
Rogerio de Lima, I won head-to-head on you. Chaos Williams, we cashed together. That was a beautiful knockout win.
And against so many people. People loved Baeza.
Song Yadong, you talked me into, so good on you. Tiago Moises, that one hurt because we had him.
We didn't, but again, that's one of those things where you get card fatigue, and you use Moises as a lock when you're not looking at the fact that Moises is way too highly favored against a guy that was so much bigger than him in Joel Alvarez. And Joel, who again, like similar to Danho in the fact that hadn't fought in a while, like comes out and just looks incredible and crumbles all the parlays. So we really can't get card fatigue. That's like a big one.
No. And Daun Jung, we had him and the over 1.5 because we were banking on the durability of Nzechukwu, and that just did not play out in our favor. And
very dumb, you know. And when you find somebody you like, just take him. Daun Jung was not too big of a favorite that we could have just taken him. So
here we go. We're getting there. We're gonna power on through. We still got
card number 40. We got
finalize up here. Left. We got Ketlin Vieira versus Misha Tate. We were kind of split on this one. Didn't really have great feelings. I did end up taking Vieira, but not confidently or betting it. So, what can you really say? Michael Chiesa, we got brutalized. Kyung Ho Kong, I feel terrible about that. Loma, feel terrible about that. Oh, yeah, no, just not a great time overall here, right?
This was a horrible card in the fact that it was 11 fights, 10 decisions, 8 of them in a row. The only finish on the card was freaking Talia Santos, who I don't think many people were even picking to get the finish. So this was a really tough card in terms of betting props, because if you bet violence in a violent sport, you didn't get what you were looking for. So this is one of those times that you really got to find your side and really stick with it.
Yeah, well, how about, I mean, we ended up being on Jose Aldo. We were talking about that one.
Talk about being on your side and fucking sticking with it. All week, we agonized over it. Everybody and their grandma was on Rob Font, man. And Aldo, like, we were like, oh, the last times he's had 5-round fights. I mean, agonized over this shit. But you know what? We stuck to our guns. We stuck to the best line that we got was plus 134 at Jose Aldo. We bet it early. And we stuck in hard, and I ended up doubling up my units right before the fight kicked off, and it made up for a back and forth card for me. And because we had put decent money on Brad Riddell. Unfortunately, that was a big mistake. The problem is we went with somebody that we thought was maybe a little bit more well-rounded, but he kept the game plan to where Fiziev was an expert. So it was just too much. And similarly, Jimmy Crute, right? We kind of thought that Jimmy Crute would use his wrestling, and he just never did, and got KO'd really, really fast.
Yeah,
and I
Chris Curtis. We were on him, and then fucking took Brennan Allen. Yeah, and we were all over Alex Morono, but then Maki Patolo was like an idea.
And by the way, sorry, when I said I didn't bet Chris Curtis before, I meant for this fight. I bet him for the first one. I cashed big with him on Die Hard for that one.
Manel Cobb.
We both liked him versus Brennan Allen, then switched. That's what I was referring to before. Sorry, everybody.
However, this pues. So there was a good takeaway.
Pues. Yeah, there was that. So yeah, that was a tough one, man. Got to learn those lessons. I remember feeling quite, again, we said that before for Vieira Tate, but I just remember feeling a lot of card fatigue for those last two cards. Yeah, and then coming into these next two.
Oh, geez, talk about some.
We got slaughtered on Oliveira Poirier.
Yeah, and
we finally rebounded for Lewis.
So impressive for Oliveira. Juliana Pena, you can't talk enough about that upset of the year, sub of the year ? Was there actually a real sub?
Right? Yeah, exactly. No, she doesn't get
that. Was like
she would get it in terms of its value. She technically submitted and got
right,
but like, bro, she didn't. It was barely. She was not choking her. She was fine. Like she just didn't want to be there.
We had, we picked Ponzinibbio. Jeff Neal beat him. We. Don't know that we necessarily took Cody, so that was a good thing. Sean O'Malley, that was.
I circled Cody. I was just pissed. Yeah. We didn't bet any money, but it was just we should have been on Kai. Like it was just it's missed opportunities that also sometimes are upsetting. O'Malley, like, I don't know why I didn't bet my life on him by KO. Like, that was so obvious. You could have had him at plus
Yeah.
money on KO. Like, there was that public scrutiny a little bit that like the KOs had been coming late, so there was still some value on that, and we stayed away. Robertson gets a
Tony.
buzzer beater of the year nominee for her sub with 1 second left in round one. Great, unbelievable finish from Tai Tuivasa, separating Sakai from consciousness. Bruno Silva had a great finish. Andre Muniz and Tony Kelly, man. Randy Costa has a very, very serious gas tank issue, man.
Yeah.
No
Something
betting
to
on
remember.
2022. No betting on fighters with gas tank issues. Like, it's just, I don't care. Like, it's just, it's not happening. If we see that in the tape, you're not getting my vote.
And finally, as we come
did
to
it.
a close, we did not do it yet. We got Derek Lewis versus Chris Daukaus. Why we bet the over and why we weren't just all over Derek Lewis like we were talking about remains outside. Yeah,
bro, I lost so much money on the to start round 2 and over 1.5. Like, what the fuck is wrong with me?
So you guys
Like,
want to hear something?
so
I never
dumb.
disclosed this to Guru, but I actually threw $100 on Derek Lewis right before the fight started.
Yeah, I had thrown right before the fight started. I threw $50 on Lewis. What was it? $50 on Lewis, decision no bet. And I had placed like another 20 on Lewis by KO at +2 something. Like, bro, I was so mad I didn't just empty my account. Like, what the fuck?
I don't agree with your next note, Lemos versus Hill, robbery of the year. I don't know. I don't know about that.
Yeah, but you weren't watching that fight, so I don't want to hear what you think you thought. Have you seen it? Have you actually seen the fight?
Yeah, I went back and watched it.
When?
After the event, I went back and watched the fight.
I'm sorry. I thought this was America.
Nah, so yeah, I thought that Lemos, was clearly landing better strikes.
I thought Hill won round 3.
Yeah, I didn't think it was a real knockdown at the end by any stretch of the imagination, and I thought that that Lemos won pretty handily the majority of that third round, and then started to give it up as it got towards the end. But I thought she did a lot of work early that definitely set her up to win that third round. Cub Swanson versus Elkins, good on Cub, man.
Unbelievable. Turning back the clock, man. I love that for Cub. That spinning wheel kick KO followed by the punches. The way he separated Elkins from consciousness was sick.
Gerald, I mean, damn, I was thinking about betting Stoltzfus also.
Yeah. No, I bet Mearshart. I was happy to cash. I was sitting there so pissed. I'm like, why did I do it? Why did I bet on Mearshart? Like, blah blah blah. Like, and then he earned it, man. He took it away from him.
Yeah.
But realistically, Mearshart at -300 favorite, like, no, not a good idea.
Yeah. Gatto versus Eubanks. Dumb betting on Eubanks. God, kills me. And then
the worst part about that is, other than, again, Eubanks showing herself as somebody with bad gas tank, we don't even really see Gatto too much. Like, we get to put a little bit of a picture together from some regional tape and what we've heard and what we see, but like, it's not like, now we know so much more about Gatto from her tape with Eubanks. Like, it was one of those things that you just gotta, it's like dog or pass.
Yeah.
And again, easy to be captain hindsight, but
Yeah, and
one of my favorite South Park fucking
that really takes us to
great finishes from Ricky Simone, Gamrot, Justin Taffa, Raquel Pennington, Dontel Mays, and Jordan Leavitt on that card. There were a lot of finishes on that card.
That was a fun way to close out the year, and
it really was. And that's what Dana White said. I believe he said it was one of the most finishes in UFC like history on a card to close out the year. So that was really sick.
So, fighter of the year, our final nominees, and let's list them out. We had, from what we came together, we had Kamaru Usman, Max Holloway, Charles Oliveira, Cyril Gane, Sean O'Malley, Islam Makhachev, Vicente Luque. As we've gone through this pod, we've given you reasons why we think any of these guys might have been the fighter of the year. Guru, do you walk away with any of these guys as the top of your list?
Wow. Yeah. Kamaru Usman. Just the the two finishes, going back and crossing your T's and dotting your I's on the fights you've already had, just really, really impressive. It's really hard. Now, I hope you give it to Charles Oliveira.
And I was going to say, to contradict you, I'm giving it to Charles Oliveira.
Good.
Talk about proving your mettle and a guy that really showed he could come back from adversity in two separate fights against, I think, better competition than Usman faced this year, especially guys that Usman has fought before, so he knew what to look for going into it. I mean, Oliveira really, he took the cake for me on this year. So,
yeah, and I think the final runner-ups in like an even three would be Cyril, Gane, Makhachev, and Luque. And maybe Gane and Makhachev above Luque and O'Malley. I mean, just their 3 wins, 3 main event spots for Gane with those 3 wins. So really impressive.
Yeah. As far as newcomer or rookie of the year, our nominees, we ended up with Chris Curtis, Carlston Harris, Casey O'Neill, and a little late add-on for me over here, Manon Fiorot.
Did Fiorot had how many fights? 2 or 3?
2. She had Leonardo. Oh wait, she had Leonardo, Ricci, and then Silva. She had 3. 3-0, 2 knockouts, 1 decision. Wow. So and honestly, that's my newcomer rookie of the year.
Yeah, I don't.
You can do this.
So and first off, in my mind, she's the least qualified of the 4, in my opinion, because of how heavily she was favored in a lot of those matchups. So if I really wanted to do it based on boy and girl or male female, there, I would give it to Casey O'Neill over Manon Fiorot. O'Neill's was so impressive. And then Curtis or Harris, I guess you have to give it to Curtis just because he fought 4 other times in 2021 outside of the UFC, all earning finishes, then comes into the UFC, both as sizable underdogs against better competition than Carlston Harris. I mean, he finished Brendan freaking Allen.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he gets it. But, I mean, Carlston Harris, I couldn't talk enough about him on this pod. I can't wait to see him fight again. So in my mind, Chris Curtis and Casey O'Neill are your rookies of the year, male and female.
All right. And then finally we have our comeback fighter of the year nominees. Matthias Nicolau, who was a great prospect once upon a time, comes back 2-0. Derek Brunson, we love a good Ron Brunson story and starting to really take off on a streak towards the top. And
now a 5-fight win streak, 2-0 within the 2 headliner spots, underdog in the last 4 of his fights, and he got a finish out of one of them. But really, realistically, your comeback fighter of the year has to be, unless I'm missing somebody, I'd love to see some other people's nominations.
Yeah, please let us know in the comments if you got a different nominee.
For sure, but to me, the winner has to be Gerald Meerschaert, who,
and I'm right there with you, Guru,
who is coming into 2021, lost 3 of his last 4, went 3-0 in 2021 with 3 finishes, 3 subs, 2 UFC bonuses. So Gerald Meerschaert is your comeback fighter of the year.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a consensus pick for Chronic Combat Conversations. Now for our comeback fight of the year.
Yeah.
Our nominees, we had Julian Marquez versus Maki Pitolo, Nate Maness versus Tony Gravely, Charles Oliveira versus Michael Chandler, and GM3 versus Mahmoud Muradov. And
only because of the stakes. But like it wasn't as impressive. Like it was like Chandler made a mistake. He overcommitted. Like he rushed in. Maness was beautiful with his counter.
I think that's the thing that hits me most about the Nate Maness fight is that we bet a huge amount against him, and he was legitimately donezo at that point. Like it wasn't like Oliveira where like he got a little bit rocked and he shot for a takedown and then pulled guard. Like Nate Maness was like, if they didn't reach the end of the round there, he was 5 seconds away from being knocked out with ground and pound. Like he was on his way and got saved by the bell. Then in the next round comes out and just absolutely flattens Gravely, but not because like Gravely gassed out or whatever. It was just like that nice of a strike. So that's why it really stands out to me as the comeback fight of the year is that Marquez had his moments all throughout the fight against Pitolo.
Yeah.
He had
Yeah.
submissions locked in whenever he wasn't being taken down, and he was landing big strikes. And Patola was going to win the fight on points, but like Nate Maness was not having success against Gravely. And
So we'll give
then
it to
he
him.
woke up in between rounds, came back out, and then had his jaw wired shut after because his jaw was fucking broken. And maybe we're a little biased on that, as you guys will find out in the near future here. But to us, comeback fight of the year, Nate
Maness for sure. He gets it without a doubt. Jim of the year, not Jim, coach of the year.
Coach of the year. I mean, this is easy, guys.
Team Elevation.
No. He's not Team Elevation. He's
my God, I'm such a jerk off.
It's,
wait, what is he? He's not Elevation?
Well,
yes, he's Team Elevation in Colorado. Unless
he has his own like separate gym that he
I think Elevation. It's called Trevor Whitman's gym.
No, it's
I thought he trains Elevation. I thought Trevor Whitman's team is Elevation Fight Team.
No.
Okay, so I'm mistaken.
Yes, you are.
Okay.
It's because that's it's ONX is what it is. That's his gym. ONX.
Oh, he used to be part of Elevation Fight Team. He just
I think he jutted off, but it's the work that he's been doing recently with Kamaru Usman, Rose Namajunas, Justin Gaethje. I mean, to see them all together on the same night, come away with those victories, and throughout the rest of the year, just the work that Trevor Whitman does on a consistent basis, it's just unmatched. Yeah,
I had no idea.
It's all right, Guru. Don't worry.
We never talked about it. We've never mentioned that gym before, ever.
Well, because it's just Trevor Whitman is all you say, like
yeah, it's fair.
Yeah, I mean, Elevation is like where Corey Sanhagen and Curtis Blades and and it's a very solid gym, but it's like
right.
But what we're seeing as far as if you take away Trevor Whitman as Coach of the Year, other nominations that it potentially would have been, I would say James Krause out of Glory MMA, Eric Nixick out of Extreme Couture, and I mean, Khabib Nurmagomedov is a fucking G in the corner. So, I mean, realistically, that just about wraps it up on the awards, guys. And
it does. Card of the year goes to UFC 268, like we said.
Yeah,
that really does wrap it up. 2-hour award show. Thank you guys so much for sticking with us, tuning in, listening. We broke down every single card of 2021. I honestly like the format, so maybe we could try to speed it up moving forward, but we tried to do that this year.
We try to do it every show, and then here we are. But I think that's the fun part is once we get going,
we can't stop.
It's a good time. That's it. We really truly enjoy this, and I hope you guys not only enjoy the content, but are enjoying kind of growing with us as we learn more about the sport, more about trends, and how we can kind of continue to the chronic combat conversation. If they were going to have a hashtag, it's fade the narrative, baby. I mean, find your spot and fade the narrative.
Absolutely. And, avoid those landmines the best you can. Don't pay chalk for somebody who doesn't deserve it. So, on that note, 2 Wednesdays, 3 Wednesdays, how far are we? 2 Wednesdays, 2 weeks.
Well, yeah. I mean, today is the 5th, and we don't have a card until the 16th, right?
Oh, so it's next week.
It's next week. We are back next week, breaking down a card live for you motherfuckers.
We're back.
No, we don't. Week. We're back next week, baby. Let's go.
Wow. So the crazy part is, we have 2 cards. We're back next week. Then we have a card. We'll have our pay-per-view breakdown for the 19th, and then there's a week off.
Yeah. So
we get 2 cards on and then 1 off.
We gotta get ahead of our shit here. We've been working on our stats. We have all of our profiles updated. Tape study has already been underway this week. So we're ready to bring you some
a little
bit
more. So now that I realize that we don't have 2 weeks, we have only a week. Holy
shit. Guys, by the way, this is classic Guru, in case you were wondering.
Oh, jeez. All right, guys. Seriously, thank you all so much for tuning in. I hope you all had a great 2021 and really stick with us for 2022 because it's going to be a doozy. We have some really special guests. Like you said, we're really working on ourselves and the product itself. So stay tuned.